we come together and record together, pray together, be together, be with our nation and our world. We got a lot of struggles right now, a lot of divisiveness. We need your help. Guide us and lead us forward. Do this as we study this lesson today. Help us to learn from it and make applications from the times in which this book was written to the times in which we live. In Christ's name we pray. Well, last week, I was out of town. Jackie did Isaiah 49. That's what we scheduled. I don't think she did. She didn't delve into chapter 50, did she?
No.
I wouldn't think so. So I was going to just do 51. But then as I was studying 51, I got inspired to do chapter 50 because I started reading in 51 to understand 51 better. I wanted to read back to 50. And I found it to me something that really spoke to me in chapter 50. So I'm going to read chapter 50 and we'll read chapter 51 from Isaiah. Now, some biblical scholars have referred to the book of Isaiah, and this is an interesting concept to think about when you read the book of Isaiah, as the fifth gospel. Because they say to really understand the Gospels and what the Gospels are about and to understand Jesus and his ministry, you have to see the preparation in the Old Testament from the writers of Isaiah. And if you divide Isaiah into three books, some divide it into two, some into three, we're in book 2 today, 50 and 50. So second Isaiah. So let's start with 50. In my Bible version has this chapter, the heading Israel's sin and the servant's obedience. And it's the servant I want to think about here. And I want to think about when we read about this, I want us to think about all the struggles we're seeing in our world today, and particularly in our own nation, and how divided we are over a lot of things. We're divided about how to interpret the Second Amendment, how to interpret the right to have an abortion versus the right not to have an abortion, the right of a child versus the right of a mother, and all that stuff. And we're actually divided even about how do we interpret elections and Democrats and Republicans and all, and how the parties as far right as far left, we seem to be getting more of a gap there that just seems to be creating more divisiveness all the way around. And that's not a new situation. Unfortunately, it's a worsening situation, I think. So I think as I look around, most everybody in here has been around about as long as I have. And, or longer. Or longer.
I think we're on the young side here.
Or longer. But I don't like seeing our nation so divided. I mean, so viciously divided. It's just very disconcerting and sad.
You think we just maybe know more now than they used to know? And why we think it's worse now than it's ever been?
I think we haven't learned lessons from the past.
That's true too.
We have to listen to the servant that came to show us the way. And I think the other problem is we all think our way is the right way. That's why we can't compromise it. America's all about compromise. You don't like that, you shouldn't be an American in the first place. That's what it's about. Be tolerant of things. Americans become very intolerant. The right's intolerant of the left, the left's intolerant of the right. And I believe this, I'm intolerant, you believe in that. And you know, it's sad. It's not, we have to decide how to understand what's right and wrong. And yet one of the most things that's right that Jesus taught us was to love one another and to be forgiving, to be understanding, to be respectful.
Go to church and listen to the sermon.
Yeah.
Point of all
Yeah.
of it.
Yeah, to not hurt each other. Don't shoot somebody because it made you mad. Don't shoot somebody because it said something where they disrespected you.
Well, nobody's willing to say, let's just agree to disagree
Yeah.
and let it drop.
Yeah,
But it's complicated too.
it is complicated.
How tolerant do you need to be in order to be a good, decent human
Right,
being?
I know. I know. I know. I know. It is tough. Just because somebody's a Republican or Democrat doesn't make them. I should stop on either one of them, you know. So. And then you can extend that to race, you understand it. You can look at this, I'm a heterosexual man. Do I understand what a woman's going through if she's trying to make a decision about an abortion? I'm a man. I never had to deliver. I've delivered babies. I would never, ever, never have I ever even been involved in abortion. I would. That's just me. That's my beliefs. That's the way I am. But that doesn't mean do I have the right to make everybody else live up to what I say is right. That's a tough thing to decide. So, like I said, I'm a heterosexual man. Maybe I don't understand.
Especially
How
if you're in a
homosexual-
leadership position too.
Yeah.
And how do you gauge that?
Yeah.
So it's not a simple thing.
Yeah.
To figure out.
But one of the things I'm pretty sure, I kind of thought about all these things we're dealing with. What would Jesus do today? I'm pretty sure Jesus wouldn't show up with a gun wrapped around his mouth on his side to walk around town. I'm pretty sure I got that right. I'm pretty sure he would love people and try to understand them. I'm pretty sure he wouldn't denigrate somebody just because they disagreed with him. So you try to think about this, and this is about the servant today. What I want to see in this is the call, and what I felt when I read 50 was my call to be a better servant. So let's see what the scriptures tells us from long ago. Because this land is not going to get any better unless people start behaving better. It's not going to get better because people walk around with guns and AK rifles and all that. And I'm not saying people can't have them. I'm just saying we don't need to be warlike. You feel safer because you got a gun on. Are you really safer when you wear a gun? You might be somebody trying to shoot at you, but they might shoot at you because you got a gun. So,
It's hard to know which comes first, the chicken or the egg.
All right, let's look at the scripture and then we discuss these things as they come up. This is what the Lord says, and this is second Isaiah, writer second Isaiah speaking. Where is your mother's certificate of divorce with which I sent her away? Or to which one of my creditors did I sell you? Because of your sins you were sold, because of your transgressions your mother was sent away. When I came, why was there no one? When I called, why was there no one to answer? Was my arm too short to ransom you? Do I lack the strength to rescue you? By mere rebuke I drive to sea, I turn the rivers into a desert. Their fish rot for lack of water and die of thirst. I clothe the sky with darkness and make sackcloth its covering. So what is this talking about? I think it's talking, to me, it sounds like mostly talking about how Israel has gone away from God. And my concern in my day and time is not Israel going away from God back when Isaiah lived, but America going away from God and the way we treat each other and how we settle things. I think this is the writer of Isaiah correctly interpreted. God would be saying to us, do you think I can't help you? Do you not want my help anymore? Will you not turn to me? I think that's where it is.
Yeah, I think that's why we have problems. We don't think to turn to God.
And you see throughout the Old Testament where Israel gets in trouble when they do that. It's not just Israel that gets into trouble. The whole dang world gets into trouble when they do that. Israel's just the example in the scripture. America should be the example now, to lead the way. And yet now we're crumbling in how we lead the way for God. And then the part that spoke to me so much is verses 4 and 5. The sovereign Lord has given me an instructed tongue. This is the writer of 2nd Isaiah speaking. To know the word that sustains the weary. I'm thinking about our nation. I think we have a weary nation. Like abortion. Abortion's been a big issue since Roe v. Wade passed. We've been divided on that issue since that passed 50 years ago. Do you ever get tired of America being divided up between either you support abortion or you don't? That's basically, that's kind of almost the way the party's divided up. Somewhat, a little bit. To know the word that sustains the weary. He wakens me morning by morning, wakens my ear to listen like one being taught. The sovereign Lord has opened my ears, and I have not been rebellious. I have not gone back. So the servants are listening to what God's saying to try to make things better. And then he goes on to write, I've offered my back to those who beat me, my cheeks to those who pulled out my beard. I did not hide my face from mocking and spitting. Because the sovereign Lord helps me, I will not be disgraced. And today's term for disgrace, I think, is disrespected. When you say that, another term you often hear, somebody, while they did something, somebody because they disrespected them. Therefore have I set my face like flint, and I know I will not be put to shame. He who vindicates me is near. Who then will bring charges against me? Let us face each other. Who is my accuser? Let him confront me. It is the sovereign Lord who helps me. Who is he that will condemn me? They will all wear out like a garment. The moths will eat them up. Who among you fears the Lord and obeys the word of his servant? That's another thing that we have to look for too. Who among us now in the world fears the Lord and listens to God's servants? Sometimes the problem is figuring out who the servant is that we should listen to. A lot of people listen to the wrong folks. Let him who walks in the dark, who has no light, trust in the name of the Lord and rely on his God. So even though things in this world get so bad, you feel like you're in utter darkness. If you stay with the Lord, you should feel like you walk through the darkness and still he's with you. But now all you who light fires and provide yourselves with flaming torches, go walk in the light of your fires and of the torches you've set ablaze. This is what you will receive from my hand. You will lie down in torment. So there he is speaking for God again. And that to me says that all these issues that you light fires about will torment you the way they're dealing with them. You've set the fires and you burned yourself up.
Rely on what you think and believe instead of God's.
Right. Instead of relying on God. And now chapter 51, which again, my Bible has got a top headline here, Everlasting Salvation for Zion. And then later at the end of the chapter is the cup of the Lord's wrath. This is a longer chapter. Listen to me, you who pursue righteousness and who seek the Lord. Look to the rock from which you were cut, and to the quarry from which you were hewn. Look to Abraham your father, and to Sarai who gave you birth. When I called him, he was but one. And I blessed him and made him many. The Lord will surely comfort Zion and will look with compassion on all her ruins. He will make her deserts like Eden, her wastelands like the garden of the Lord. Joy and gladness will be found in her, thanksgiving and the sound of singing. Listen to me, my people. Hear me, my nation. The law will go out from me. My justice will become a light to the nations. My righteousness draws near speedily. My salvation is on the way, and my arm will bring justice to the nations. The islands will look to me and wait and hope for my arm. Lift up your eyes to the heavens. Look at the earth beneath. The heavens will vanish like smoke, and the earth will wear out like a garment, and its inhabitants die like flies. Sounds good. But my salvation will last forever. My righteousness will never fail. Hear me, you who know what is right. I think that's an important message for today. Hear me, you who know what is right. Now, does that mean we've got 100%, every one of us knows exactly what's right? Maybe not, but most of us have some ideas of goodness, love, forgiveness, understanding, compassion. Hear me, those who know what's right. You people have my law in your heart. Do not fear the reproach of men or be terrified by their insults. For the moth will eat them up like a garment, and the worm will devour them like wool. But my righteousness will last forever, my salvation through all generations. Awake, awake, clothe yourself with strength, O arm of the Lord. Awake as in days gone by, as in generations of old. Was it not you who cut Rahab to pieces, who pierced that monster through? Was it not you who dried up the sea, the waters of the great deep, who made a road in the depths of the sea so that the redeemed might cross over? The ransom of the Lord will return. They will enter Zion with singing. Everlasting joy will crown their heads. Gladness and joy will overtake them, and sorrow and sighing will flee away. I, even I, am he who comforts you. Who are you that you fear mortal men, the sons of men who are but grass? That you forget the Lord your maker, who stretched out the heavens and laid the foundations of the earth, that you live in constant terror every day because of the wrath of the oppressor, who is bent on destruction. For where is the wrath of the oppressor? What we have to figure out in our nation is who is the oppressor? Because they're all around us. And we better recognize it. The cowering prisoners will soon be set free. They will not die in their dungeons, nor will they lack for bread. For I am, there's that I am that we see from the book of Genesis, early in the Bible. For I am the Lord your God, who churns up the seas so that its waves roar, and the Lord Almighty is his name. I have put my words in your mouth and covered you with the shadow of my hand. I who set the heavens in place and laid the foundations of the earth, and who say to Zion, you are my people. Now for the final section of this chapter. Awake, awake, rise up, O Jerusalem. And I think we need to, in our terms, put that awake, awake, rise up, O America. You who have drunk from the hand of the Lord, the cup of his wrath, and who have drained to its dregs, and the goblet that makes men stagger. Of all the sons she bore, and there was none to guide her. Of all the sons she reared, and there was none to take her by the hand. These double calamities have come upon you. Who can comfort you? Ruin and destruction, famine and sword. Who can console you? We're not dealing so much with famine. We might be if we don't get some rain, right? But we are dealing with a lot of stuff. Pandemics, inflation, recession. I mean, these things come and go. There's depression.
What about 18, verse 18? The children she bore,
Right. Yeah.
there have there was none to guide her. How many of you, we're mostly senior citizens in here, have children that ignore us?
Yeah.
I sometimes feel like my son does. I don't hear him.
Yep.
But that's, it's confession day.
Yeah. But that's a good point.
You're in a big group, Susie.
Got a lot of friends. That's a good point, because if the generations that come are going further and further away from God, then you won't have anybody to guide
That's right.
you. You won't have anybody.
But does that mean we drop the ball as parents?
Perhaps.
I didn't hear that.
That we dropped the ball as parents?
It's a
Well,
good,
that could be true in some people's case, but some people have done everything right.
Maybe they just tired, like we are.
I adopt the philosophy, I cannot apologize for somebody else's
Behavior.
mistake and behavior.
Yeah.
My children know what to do. If they make a mistake, they own it. Just like when I make a mistake, I have to own it. Because my parents taught me what to do, and I'm sure sometimes I disappointed them, you know. And,
Unfortunately, we live in a society that's, it's always somebody else's fault.
and the thing we have to think about when these writers, these prophets, or a lot of people said Isaiah is more like an evangelist. They're not necessarily speaking of Judy, Don, and Diane. They're speaking of
Right.
the community. What's happened to our community as a whole? I mean, that's impacted by individual families, obviously, but they speak of the community as a whole. And I think when we think of America, America is a term where we say America, America is bigger than me. America's not all about me. America's about everybody collectively. It's not about me. But we've been very much a me generation. We've even raised kids to be me generations in some respects. But people sometimes worship their children rather than worship God. That can mislead the way your kids go. But anyway, and that doesn't apply to everybody. That doesn't, but we deal with some of that. It says your sons have fainted, they lie at the head of every street like an antelope caught in a net. They are filled with the wrath of the Lord and the rebuke of your God. Therefore hear this, you afflicted one, made drunk, but not with wine. This is what your sovereign Lord says, your God, who defends his people. See, I have taken out of your hand the cup that had made you stagger. From that cup, the goblet of my wrath, you will never drink again. I will put it into the hands of your tormentors who say, fall prostrate, excuse me. Speaking like
Got you fighting worse confused.
prostrate. There's an R in there. There's another 2 R's in there. I want prostrate, fall prostrate. That we may walk over you and make your back like the ground, like a street to be walked over. So, and this is kind of flipping that the people who have inflicted so much stuff on Israel is going to be flipped around onto them. But even the people that inflicted Israel were not always good people.
I know.
I mean, because it's, you know, if we don't watch it, America could be greatly punished by Russia, China, North Korea, conglomeration of all 3 of them. That doesn't make them great because they punish us. Does it? That's what happened to people of Israel. They were punished by nations who were not necessarily good. So it's complicated.
A lot of that was caused by greed, though, too. And is today.
Yeah. So let's see, we've got some time. So after studying this, after knowing about all the stuff we're dealing with, we would call ourselves the United States of America. And we have not been united all along. I mean, look at the Civil War. things got pretty divided up then. And I think we've struggled some since then, and we still struggle. I mean, and you've got states, it's not divided north and south, you've got states. You know, look at the ones that are gonna allow abortions right now, and the ones that aren't, all this. So we're united in a weird way sometimes. But how can we make the United States better and stronger and a better nation for all people? Not just for people who think like I do, who look like I do. How can we make this a better place for all of God's people? What can we do to make it a better place? A better place, a beacon, be a beacon on the top of the hill for the light of the world, where the world will look up to us. What can we do? Anybody we got some ideas?
Can we call in a lifeline to speak for us? I can get my son on the phone. He can explain all this real quick. Well, you know, I think we're looking at, it's like we're examining Stone Mountain with a tiny little magnifying glass. This issue didn't just happen. This is a worldwide issue that's been coming at America like a tsunami for years.
Which issue?
The issue of the breakdown of America, and the purpose of everything is to get rid of God. Just like with the Israelis in the Bible, the people of the children of Israel, when they left God, their nation crumbled, and God saved them. But sometimes I worry personally that we can become so evil in our behaviors that God may choose not to save us. I hope that he will help save America, but this didn't just happen overnight. And I would really challenge everybody in this room. It's a set of books. It's called, it's published by the Epoch Times reporters, all of them together. It's about communism and how communism takes over a nation. And it first starts with just little incremental things, you know, oh, well, we can't change America overnight, so we're going to change it one teacher in the classroom at a time. And we know all those things have happened in our country. And we're still sitting here going to get our nails done and our hair done. We're not concerned about it because we're not on the school board, or we're not at the school hearing what the principals and people that know these things are going on. And we want to take the blame for it. Well, the only blame that we can take is not being a voice for God and speaking up, because it's real clear. God's over here, communism's over here. Church is here, secular world is out there. Think about how many people had rather go do something else on Sunday morning than get up to go to church.
Well, maybe rather than think of it in terms of communism, you think of it as secular.
Well, it is secularism, but the
anything
goal
else?
is to destroy God in America, and that is communism. Anyway, we don't want to talk about it because it makes us sound like we're crazy people. But I'm not a crazy person, but I am concerned about it. And when you see, when you see these beach scenes when all the kids have gone on spring break, and you see the college age girls standing there shaking their booties with a T-string bathing suit on. I'm like, I want to go in there and find out who the heck is that kid. I'm gonna go talk to their parents. Somebody's got to do something about the kids. So
That's the way to win friends and influence people.
that's right. Well, their parents probably feel the same way I do. I want to kill them for doing it. I wouldn't want to mind, but like I say, we own our own mistakes, and that film will be out there forever on those young people that
One
do
of the
stuff like
things
that.
that I think touched on there, I think one of the big issues that we ought to look at, and rather than trying to look, let's just bring it this time.
That's it.
There's a big issue with how we look at that. And there's a lot of times people try to tell other people how to look at that. I think we have to understand how would God have us look at there's a lot of difference to me with one of the things people have fallen in love with sexuality and sexual expression.
Mhm.
I think that's one of the things that's maybe made abortion even a bigger issue. Because one of the problems with the way people are doing sexuality now, it's more common to have pregnancy result outside of a marriage where people are wanting to have children. Okay. I mean, we got a lot of different ways to prevent pregnancies nowadays. Thank goodness. Abortion for women who don't want pregnancy should be the very last resort we would have to consider. There's so many other options available if we can help with educating them that. But one of the things we need to look at is it's almost as if, I don't know, I'm not going to talk about the whole world because I mostly know what's going on in America, brother. But it's true in a lot of parts of the world. People, you just have, I don't know about y'all, I don't watch any TV shows anymore. I watch some news and I'm watching less and less of that. So
It's everywhere.
yeah, but
It's everywhere.
but TV and movies, it's very tough. I mean, I do watch Perry Mason.
Boy, that marks you. Makes you a lot older than you really.
But I made watch ball games, and even that should be tough. But there seems to be this lust for sexuality and free sexuality, and rather than to try to keep that within just teaching people that that's an expression of love.
It's
Even
been
whether
all-
you want to even get in the context of a marriage or not, it should still be in the context of two people loving each other. And then you got to think, you may have to expand your thoughts on that. I think of that in terms of myself and my wife. But you may have two gay men who think of that in terms of each other. And to me, this whole different thing when I think of this gay man loving this gay man versus a gay young man who goes out and has sex with 100 different people every year. But the same thing for a heterosexual man. You've got a heterosexual man who's married and yet he goes out and he messes around with, say, 6 different women every year. Is that good behavior just because it's heterosexual? No. Well, this is one of the issues we struggle with. And a lot of it has to do about being loving and understanding and putting other people's needs first and not my own.
And respect
Well, that's part
for
of it.
self and others.
That's right. And life
Yes.
in general. So, back in Abraham's day, one of the things that was important was for a woman to have a child, to bear him a child. So he had somebody to pass down his property to. He always wanted a son. I'm not saying they were perfect in how they understood it all. Because, there were societies way back then, a girl was born, throw that away, get another one. That's after they're born. It's not an abortion. I mean, if you look at how people have done over the years. So, but we need to focus on trying to get people to understand and truly, really love one another. That's what Jesus talked about. And not abuse one another. I mean, people abuse each other a lot. So that's one of the big issues, and that's how some of that comes up. So that's one of the ways I see. So, and let's see. Put others first.
I think that's, you got your P upside down.
Put
But others first.
Oh man, you need to always be able to laugh at yourself.
Well, you're in the right class.
That's right. That's right. Put others first. That's not easy to do, but that's what Jesus talked about. Put others first. Children, people of other color, people who need to immigrate, people who need homes. Put others first. It's easy to say, I don't want to pay any more taxes because your taxes, you think the government's going to waste. Most people waste a lot. I've always said this before. Most of us have wasted a ton of money in our lifetime.
Oh, yeah.
How many times have you bought stuff you never wore, or you wore once, or you bought something you really didn't need? How much money do we all waste? Some people waste a lot less than others, okay? Some people are really good at being extremely frugal. But they can be so frugal that they don't put others first.
Well,
They put
their
money
spouse takes care of that.
So one of the other things we have to figure out what we do. This is where a lot of people get caught. Money and power. I didn't see Jesus set an example about making money.
And especially in the leadership class, in the ruling class, I think that's particularly true.
And this is where a lot of you politicians get hung up too. Money and power, control,
Well, that's.
control
leadership.
people. The thrust of power can make you do all kind of bad things. So,
It'll also make it possible for you to take real advantage of the number one.
money and power, yeah. So this is one problem I see that we struggle with in America, is money and power issue. Money is power. And now we willingly, it's interesting, we willingly give money here to help people, but sometimes we don't want to willingly pay taxes to help people. You know, I'm not saying I want to see us tax at 80% rate. I feel like I work a third of the year to pay taxes, maybe a fourth of the year now, maybe a half the year. So, and we do need to hold our leaders accountable to how they spend their money. But we don't need to ask them not to try to help people. Look how much money we're trying to spend right now. It's debatable how much of our money that could help our people should we spend in Ukraine. But yet, if we don't help Ukraine, the whole world may collapse. And that's a tough issue, isn't it? That's a tough issue. But we don't need to have these things, don't need to be
Front and center.
front and center. I often taught my medical students when they come through, that my feeling in medicine is you work hard, you can make a good living trying to take care of people. And it's to me a unique job because people actually pay me money to take care of them. That makes that a unique job to me. That makes that special. But if you put the money part of it first and try to see how much money you can get out of every encounter, I've always thought it's better to let it take care of itself. Just
You lose the good intentions.
right, and that could be true in any job. I mean, entrepreneurs obviously trying to make money, but they can do it in a good way, not by cheating somebody else or browbeating somebody else out of a deal or something, and they can then share their money and give it to people. I mean, a lot of people, if you got multi-million dollars, if you got billions of dollars, you can give $1 billion to somebody to help stuff.
Or you can buy Twitter.
Huh? Are you about to?
Or you can buy Twitter.
You about to- Right, that's right. So it's
There aren't a lot of people out there who can buy Twitter.
I'm not even Elon Musk.
no, but that brings up a good point. I think we've developed a system. This is where we're not communism. I'm not communist. Okay, don't get me wrong. But even with capitalism, there's one problem I see. We have developed a system where there's a very small percentage of people who have a whole lot of money in our system, in the world, even in Russia. Communism's got it just as bad as anybody.
Oligarchs.
Look at those oligarchs, how much money they got. And they get it the same way a lot of other people who get a lot of money.
Like
By
you said.
using other people's to do their work so they make more money. And that's tough. I mean, even Vicky and I, during the pandemic, we've been trying to raise the people we pay during the pandemic because at least they've been working for us. And yet, I'm sure my lady sitting at the front desk wish I paid $50 an hour. But if I did, I probably wouldn't be making any money myself. Those are tough issues, though. You try to be fair to everybody in the marketplace. But not everybody out there's making a lot of money is trying to be fair. They're trying to get, the best deal they can, make as much money as they can, and move on, make the next most money they can. So I'm not saying making money is always evil, but we've got a lot of people. Look in sports. How many of you watched Freddie Freeman come back and play for the Braves against the Dodgers? I mean, the Dodgers against Braves.
Make you sick.
Now, one of the things that I think about a lot there, the deal that Freddie turned, because I think Freddie regrets that he didn't stay in Atlanta. I think he can
He
see
sure
it.
looked like it the other
He
day.
does. He does. I think he does. And I think he does. And I think what he should have told his agent was, I don't care what happens, I'm staying in Atlanta. You just try to get the best deal you can for him, but I want to stay in Atlanta. So I think in his situation, I think the Braves should have given him whatever he wants. They got pretty money. And I think he should have taken whatever deal they offered. And he'd still be here and everybody be happy. But I thought about this, the deal he turned down, in 1 year in that deal that he turned down, he would have made more money than most all of us would have made in our whole working career in 1 year.
I think that was the only sticking point for that 1 year.
He wants one more year. That's right. But the deal he turned down, I think, was 5 years. At first, it was 125 million, and then they went to 135 million. But they didn't want to do a 6-year deal. And the Dodgers, I think, finally gave him a 6-year deal for 135 million. I think is what they did. Something like that. But even at this deal, think about that. That's what that's at, right? $25 million for 1 year of playing baseball. How many of y'all have been
How old
25?
does he think he's gonna live to be? That he's gonna need so much more money?
I was wondering, how much money do you need? I mean, how do you say, well, if you're gonna give me 25 million, I'm gonna hold out, I'm gonna sit. What difference does it make?
It's part of the decline.
It's the
of
ego, it's the
of
ego,
society.
it's this money and power deal, even
It's
among
total
athletes.
decline.
And I still think athletes and movie stars make way too much money. But
But
we
it's
get
because
more
we
the
pay them.
people that are paying them, the owners make even a lot more money. These big companies.
But the people,
Same reason actors make so much money.
people that
Because
watch
we're foolish
TV
enough
and
to
go
go
to
to-
ball games where the money comes
That's
from.
right. TV's where the money comes from, absolutely, for sports, really. We all love our sports, but I still think, in his case, he obviously seems to be unhappy that he left Atlanta. And he did it because $25 million a year wasn't enough. And I think, that's kind of sad, isn't it? Because most of the people who go to those ball games will not make that much money in their whole life.
He wants his name in the sport book that says he got the most money ever made.
Oh, he's not even close to
I don't know, but he was trying to get
mine.
there.
He's getting close. But I don't know. Anyway, that's just an example there. First and foremost. So we got a lot of issues to work through. And one of the things for us to think, what would Jesus do? I mean, look how divided we are and how we interpret the Second Amendment. How much money is spent on politicians by certain groups to make sure it's interpreted a certain way. That's a tough issue right there. How do we interpret the right to bear arms? How do we limit it? Because America's not getting to be a safer place. How many of you feel safe, like you won't be shot if you go to a gas station? You feel safer now than you did 20 years ago?
I feel broker.
There's more guns. Americans have more guns than any country in the world. And we don't feel safe.
Well, they got a long time to get a good aim at you because you
Right.
got to sit at the
But
pump.
you've got to make it harder for certain
years.
people to get guns for sure. Don't want felons to get guns.
I've got a quick question. How many people in here have read the Constitution of the United States to really understand what our country was founded on?
Right.
I think if everybody go home and study the Constitution, you might come back with a better focus on what are we fighting for. We're fighting to save our country and to keep God in our country.
Well, the other thing I think we have to do, almost like we have to do scripture. The scripture was written years ago. To keep it only in the context of years ago and not let it be dynamic is not right. I think the same thing's true for the Constitution. You can't say it's got to be the way they wrote it and that's it, and it's never will be changed. Things have changed since then. The right to bear arms was pretty important because the British will come. I mean, the British could come, the French could come, anybody come. You need to have your arms to be ready to get a militia going right quick.
But a lot of people who came to America also came because in the countries they came from, they were accosted by people with guns and they had nothing to protect themselves.
Yeah.
So it's not just to fight the British.
We've talked about this before. Most of us, our families at some point immigrated to America.
Yeah.
Remember I said I have claim to being partially already here because my granddaddy's grandmother was a Creek Indian. So I have a partial claim to have already been here. What are you people doing here?
Tiny little
We were here first.
your DNA was.
Yeah, look, Vicky says I turned red. Red skin.
I think it has more to do with some of your other DNA.
But anyway, but most people that immigrate here are trying to desperately get here for a better life. That's why most people do. That's not saying not some bad dudes trying to get here, but bad dudes can ride over here in a suit and tie and do just as much damage as people trying to swim across the river. And we welcome them.
I still
And they
think
do
there needs
much
to be a better process.
I
The
do.
process needs some work.
That's right. That's right. It needs to be, it really did, that's, well, it took what, 30 years to get any agreement from the two sets, the Democrats and Republicans agree on anything to do with gun control. It took them about 30 years to work on that. But they need to do something about immigration to make it a smoother process for people, for good people trying to get to this country. So you pay for them one way or the other. Look how much money we're sending to Ukraine. Look how much money we send everywhere. So
Well, we're figuring this out, aren't we?
we're not good. We're figuring out where some of the problems are, but one of the things we need to understand is how as Americans we need to strive to work together. Because we're gonna lose if we don't.
Well, and it goes back to that. The best answer and the only answer is God.
Yeah, we're gonna lose. Yeah. And God pulls you together for trying to do things in a loving, forgiving, understanding, kind, considerate, compassionate manner. And to me, the best example that helped us understand that to me, and if he hadn't showed up, I would have a hard time, and that's Jesus Christ. He makes me understand what the Old Testament is all about a lot better. And that's how Isaiah ties in as the fifth gospel, till it leads us to Jesus, the ultimate servant. Not necessarily the final servant. Moses was a servant, but there's been lots of servants. We all need to be servants and follow our leader, Jesus, not Donald Trump, Joe Biden, whatever politician you want to call. They are not our leaders. They are people we elect to put in positions of power, but they are not our leaders. Our leaders should be servants like Jesus. So we need to hold our leaders accountable to be more like we want Americans to be. So, any questions or comments? It's time to go.
Better pray, pray quick.
Another question on a different issue.
Right.
I've been talking to several of my friends out in other places. They've all had COVID like I have. Right. Is it that widespread, but symptoms are
Milder.
The answer is yes and yes. It's very widespread. It's not being reported as much because people testing it out.
sure?
It's very contagious. It's very contagious. In fact, if somebody in this room came in today with, how many of us used to come to church and had a little bit of a cold? I never missed a day of work because of a cold,
Right.
You did.
and I never wore a mask in my office. Most of my patients came in with a cold and hat. So, but this one is very contagious. So if one of us showed up today with it in here in this room, and if the rest of us hadn't had any protection, already haven't had it basically, because even the vaccine doesn't keep you from getting Omicron right now. It helps you not be so bad sick. But everybody can get it. You may have a mild case or asymptomatic case. If you have asymptomatic case, you go test yourself. I don't swab my nose every day. Doesn't make sense, does it? But fortunately, it is milder. So what we're all hopeful for, I should know my patients still keep getting vaccines, because you never know when a virulent one's going to come back around. Flus do that. You see years where we have mild cases, flu, and all of a sudden, boom, here comes a flu that's really bad. You gotta be ready. So, yeah, it's very contagious, but a lot of it's not being reported. Because if you have a home test, I mean, unless you called up the CDC to report your case, and you know how hard that is. Please hold. Wait for the next available.
I'm trying to get my plumbing fixed. I haven't got time for this on that.
But thank goodness it has been, thank goodness this has been mild. That's a good thing. Well, let's close with prayer. God, thanks for this time to come together and study and try to understand how to be better Christians. And if we're better Christians, we'll do our part to have a better America and try to lead the way. Amen.
Well, student.
Well, you got us all thinking.
Yeah.
I do need to say.
I believe it's Saturday.
Yeah.
Where you headed?
Sorry?
Where you headed?
Sounds.
Pennsylvania